we've had a number of questions actually just about how best to invest your money in a downward market. So I think specifically in the 401k, and just how do you think about that, Heather?
Bjorn, you made a good point about time horizon a couple questions ago, and this is a prime example of time horizon. Your 401k dollars are dollars that you're not going to use for 20, 30, 40, 50 years. Those are the assets and the investments that you've worked very hard to accumulate. We as advisors understand how emotional it is because you're attached to those assets. You've worked hard for them, you've saved, but retirement assets are really the longest time horizon that you have of any asset on your balance sheet. So you want to take into consideration what your risk tolerance is, but also don't give up too much yield because those assets are going to be in a long time horizon. And the best way to really combat inflation is to not lose the purchasing power on the dollars that you do have. Because if you have, for instance, $1 today is not worth $1 tomorrow. And if your dollar today is invested in something that's earning 0.5% and inflation is 7%, you're actually losing purchasing power on that dollar. So in the combination of time horizon for 401ks and purchasing power, I would talk to somebody about what your risk tolerance is and what your asset allocation is. I wouldn't stop investing either in the 401k because you don't want to subject yourself to losing the match that your company will have for you. And you don't want to lose the tax benefit of a traditional 401k. You also don't want to lose the potential or the benefit of a Roth 401k, where it grows tax-free when you leave the company and grows tax-free now.
Because if you stop contributing, you can't ever go back in tax years. So if you miss this tax year on what you could have contributed, you can't retroactively go back. I think the other thing that people miss pretty often as they think about a downward economy is because we're so focused on the dollars. Like we just think, I put in $1 and now it's going to be worth 80 cents next week. It's hard to get away from that, but you have to remember that you're buying shares of an investment in your 401k. So you are getting something for that dollar. And even if on paper you're seeing a decline right now because the market has come down or there's more volatility, you're still getting more shares for your dollar because it's cheaper to buy those shares right now. And hopefully things will turn around and as they have in the past. And now you've got more shares and they're going to be at the higher value. And so we don't talk a lot about shares, but I think that's one that I think is really crucial to keep in mind for people. And I know this is a challenge for myself, is just trying to think in decade-long time increments. So hard, right? Because we're just in the here and now. Every day is a mountain sometimes to climb. But one way to get the perspective is just look back 10 years in your life right now. Look back 10 years. What has changed in 10 years in your life? Probably tons of things have changed. And so that can be a helpful callback to really look at, oh my gosh, for me, I had no kids 10 years ago. So I'm in a totally different life. It's a totally different life. But if I just think, okay, if that's the pace of change, and now I'm looking at 20, 30, 40 years out, like you said, Heather, of thinking this isn't money you're going to use for a while, a lot can change. And you've got to try to keep that perspective and not get so focused on even if it's 5 months of a downward economy, like that's still very small compared to decades, years, half of a century of time by the time you're going to be using that money.
Right. And you want to make sure that your investments are working for you and to avoid chasing the market.
Yep. Good points.